Okay, there we go. Okay, let me introduce you everybody to the new outstanding executive director of Leach Botanical Garden. And now that he's been here for about a year, he's getting his feet on the ground. And thank you so much for joining us and uh, and coming on board and kind of let us see who you are and hear from you for a few minutes. And we'll just give it over to you, Ben.
Great. Thanks, Dale. And it's nice to see all of you and see a couple people are really close neighbors to the garden. Some of you are further away. If we were in an interactive environment, I might, or a more interactive environment, I might ask who has been at Leach recently and how long it's been. But since we're not, I'm just gonna dive in a little bit to talking about what's going on now. I really just want to talk for a few minutes and then give you all a chance to ask questions. Thanks, Dale, for inviting me and for making time in the schedule today. It's great to meet our neighbors. And when I mentioned to staff that I was going to be doing this this meeting, and I said, "Is there anything in particular you want me to say?" The best thing anyone said was our visitor services manager, Tamara, for any of you who do come to the park, the garden often, you may know her, see her around. She said, "Tell them we love our neighbors." And I think that's really the way to start, and the thing to say for me about Leach Botanical Garden and its relationship to your neighborhood and that the part of the city that you all live in is that you know, I've been at the garden for just about 9 months now, but the most important thing I think for me to say here than anything else is to affirm that we as an organization are committed to being a good neighbors and first and foremost to serving the community that surrounds us directly. You know, as you know, there have been changes at the garden, new developments, or you may know, new developments in the garden. And, you know, we have lots of plans for the future, a master plan. And, you know, the garden hopefully will continue to develop for, you know, years to come. But our commitment, first and foremost from our staff and our board, is to be sure that we're a good resource for the city or for our neighbors, and that we do not simply want to be focused on drawing people from across the country or even across the region. We really want to be a resource for everyone who lives nearby, a place of entertainment, of community, a place of health and respite, a place to get quiet, to encounter nature. And that's really the main thing I wanted to be sure to just share today, is let you all know that that is still very much our intention. It's my first chance to chat with all of you, but that's really our focus at the garden as much as anything we do. So we're getting ready for the spring and summer season now. And I've been checking in with our staff, and we're starting to plan our events. It's still pretty quiet at the garden right now, but I think over the next 1 to 2 months, things are going to get busier. I did want to quickly mention one event we have coming up this coming weekend on Sunday. That's the Spring Equinox Garden Fair. It's from 10 to 2. It's also a free admission day at the garden. So good chance, if you have not been out yourself, or if you have friends or neighbors who would like to check out the garden and don't want to pay admission, it's a great day to come for that. Also, hopefully you all know, but while we're talking about free admission, I want to make sure that everybody here knows that Leach Botanical Garden has a Garden for All program, which means that while we do charge a fee at the gate, anybody at all is welcome to request to enter for the Garden for All. And that means you can enter free at any time. So another thing we want people to really understand is that while charging admission is part of what we're doing at the garden in order to be financially sustainable and a good steward and partner with the city, it's very important to us that no one is turned away. And of course, folks with need, that program is meant for folks with significant financial need, but we really mean that for anybody. So any day that you don't have $5 in your pocket and you want to come to the garden, just come to the gate and say you want to access the garden by Garden for All. tell all your friends and neighbors the same. We don't want anyone turning away because they don't feel like paying. So anyway, if you want to check out the garden this weekend, if the weather's good, it's going to be, I think, really busy. But from 10 to 2, there will be a lot of things going on. iNaturalist training for those who want to be involved in the neighborhood, BioBlitz and information tracking, a bunch of different things. There will be educators from Portland Parks. And then we have a few things coming up in April I want to let you know about. We have garden tours happening every couple of weeks. So consider signing up for a garden tour if you'd like. And what else? I'm not going to go through a long list of events. We have lots of things planned for this spring and summer. Music events for children, music events for adults. We'll have a big dinner in the fall that's going to be a really great experience. We have a lecture series we haven't planned yet, but that'll be coming up. So lots of ways to engage with the garden, either as a visitor during a quieter time or through some more active and exciting events. And we're working really hard to make events for all ages. And so be sure that we can both be a good place for families to spend time together and also for adults without kids. So we want to find something that makes the experience great for all of you. And that is, I guess, we'll wrap up what I have to say about what's coming up. I also wanted to share for any of you who are a business or who have associations with businesses in the neighborhood, we did just relaunch a business membership program. And we're doing that for a couple reasons. One is because there are lots of businesses who either have participants who they sometimes want to bring to the garden, and also who perhaps have staff that they want to come to the garden on their lunch break or to take a break in the afternoon. And so we launched this program so that there's a way for businesses to provide a little bit of a benefit to their employees or their members who may want to drop in at the garden through business membership. And it's also a great advertising opportunity for local businesses. We have a list of benefits other than accessing the garden that are available through that. So I encourage any of you to look into that if you know businesses in the area that might want to make that part of what they offer to their employees. Similarly, I'm sure you all know about our membership program, but if you do like to come regularly or think you would, we have a variety of memberships for individuals and families. You can come and visit the garden regularly that way, never pay. It's a low fee and a great way to access the garden and support what we do. Something else that came to my mind, and it just passed right out again, so it'll probably come back. And I'm thinking, other than business memberships, I wanted to let you all know we've been doing some construction at the garden. We received a grant last fall to update the manor house and the carriage house, and also the stone cabin. For those of you who do know the garden on the other side of the creek, it's unfortunately not very accessible right now because of the bridge washout. So we've been working on that construction. That should all be wrapping up at the end of May. And at the end of May, you'll have an opportunity, or not the end of May, but later in the summer, I think we'll have some opportunities to tour the reopened manor house. And over time, you know, for those of you who's lived in the neighborhood a long time, you know, there was a time when it was often possible to come into the neighbor house while the garden, or the manor house while the garden was open. Recently, that's been less possible due to COVID. But I think we're going to try to make some plans to make it opportunities for those who care to come inside the manor house for events or tours, provide some of that. And there will be open houses available to the community. So we'll keep you posted on those too. I'm sure there are other things I want to tell you about that have escaped me, but that is the things that was on my notes. Oh, wait, our volunteer manager, Annie, wanted me to let you all know that if you do want to know what's going on at the garden, the best way to do it, other than visiting our website and looking at the events thing, is to just sign up for our monthly newsletter, which is really easy to do. Go to our website, you'll find where to sign up. And we try not to send a ton of emails. You shouldn't get more than 2 or 3 a month and one newsletter a month. So please sign up. That's the best way to see what's going on. Dale, is there anything else in particular you were hoping I would speak to? And if not, I would like to just invite anyone who has questions for me to ask.
Not particularly. You've really done terrific with covering a lot of ground in a short time.
Hope I didn't talk too fast. Sorry if I did.
Are there any questions? Steve? Yes, Steve Montgomery, unmute yourself.
All right, I'm unmuted, Dale. So I was wondering with the garden up there, do you guys have any opportunities for pollinators or learning anything about honeybees and maybe hummingbirds and planting different types of pollinators, plants or stuff like that?
Sure, I can answer we do. Well, so first of all, the newest part of the garden is actually called the pollinator garden and is really kind of well, it's what it's called. It's a pollinator garden. So it's an opportunity there to go and see and experience pollinators and how they grow through the year. And we have in the past had honeybee tours, bee pollinator tours. So far this year, we don't have any scheduled and we don't have any classes scheduled. We actually, our education manager just retired. So we've put up what she had put together for the year so far. And we're working on replacing, hiring and planning for the next few months. And so I think until we get some new staff in place, I don't want to overwhelm our existing staff. So we're not planning a lot of new classes, but it's good to know that you're interested in pollinator education. And that's definitely something that we will, I think, bring back to the garden at a later date.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I would just like to put in a pitch for if you move forward with some pollinator education in the future, let's make sure we talk about native bees, not just honeybees.
Yeah, thanks. And speaking of native bees and honeybees and native planting, I also, for those of you who are interested in native plants, we are in the process of a restoration project that's been going on now for about 5 years in the back 5 portion of the garden. And back there, the focus, which is with one of our partners, is Johnson Creek Watershed Council. And we have 4 other partners that are working with us on that. And really what we're doing there is removing all of the invasive species and planting native plants. Now, over the long term, what that 5 acres will look like, we don't know, but at the current time, it's really focused on that native planting. And I think that whatever happens to that area in the future, we will be making sure that there's a portion of the garden that really is focused on native plants.
That is terrific, Ben. Any other last minute ideas, thoughts? It's been my experience in the last 10 years that anytime you go, it is a beautiful place to be, and it changes. And you see things differently in every 24 hours. Things change so quickly that you find a different experience. And one of the particularly seasonal is a good time. And I find particularly personally the early mornings, late evenings, the contemplative area is a wonderful place for me because I'm kind of an introvert in some ways, and I love to be in a space that is so quiet and gives back so much in terms of being healthy.
Yeah, thanks, Dale. And I guess if there aren't any other questions, the last thing I just want to say is all of our staff feel this, but this is coming from me directly to all of you as well. Please feel free to reach out with any feedback, negative or positive, about the garden. It's really important for us that we know what members of our community and what our neighbors would like to see from the garden. And so just always just always feel free to reach out and let us know. And we want to know, the questions about education, for instance, is interesting. We need to know from our neighbors what people want to hear about, what they want to see happening at the garden. And we can't be everything to everybody, but we do want to know what all of you are looking to experience, and whether or not you think we're being the best neighbor we can. So just keep those communication lines open. So thank you so much for having me today, and I'm going to hang around to hear Elizabeth chat too, just in case we have anything to say about our work together.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Ben, for being here this evening. And wow, that's a lot to digest, and gives us some more thought about what a gem we have in Pleasant Valley neighborhood. Oh my gosh. If you can realize that we're one of only several neighborhoods that have a beautiful nature space like this that's accessible, we're so fortunate. And so keep that in mind and tell your neighbors. We are terrific neighbors having this gem. And thank you, Ben, for all the work that you're doing to keep it that way.
Thanks, Dale. I'm going to put my email in the chat in case anyone wants to drop me an email about anything, but you can always find my contact information on the website as well. Okay,
Great.
I'll be quiet now.
Great, thank you. Okay, Johnson Creek Watershed Council, Elizabeth Rossig, and she came and visited me about what she had some great plans with, and I'm just going to let her kind of start off and share with you kind of what she shared with me.
Thank you, Dale. Sorry. I'm Elizabeth Brosig. I'm the Restoration Project Manager at Johnson Creek Watershed Council. And before I jump in, I just want to say I cannot speak highly enough of Leach Botanical Garden. I discovered it a few years ago on a bike ride, actually. My husband and I were out on a bike ride and we're like, oh, there's this green space on the map. Let's go check it out. And we've been in love with it since. So yeah, thank you for having that. And I'm really into native plants. I volunteer with the Backyard Habitat program quite a bit. And whenever people ask, like, well, do native plants really look good in a garden? I always point them to Leach Botanical Garden, saying there's a great example of how you can incorporate native plants into your yard and have a gorgeous garden. So yep. And I'm on the newsletter, the email newsletter. And yes, it doesn't show up that often. It's not annoying, I promise. So with all that said, I will jump into my presentation. Let me get this going and then I'll share my screen. Okay, 1 second here. All right, let me know if you can see that.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So as I said, I'm Elizabeth Brosig and I'm the Restoration Project Manager at Johnson Creek Watershed Council. And for any of you not super familiar with Johnson Creek Watershed Council, we are a nonprofit that was established back in 1995 by a bunch of citizens that wanted to take care of the watershed and have more of a connection with it. Our mission is to promote restoration and stewardship of a healthy Johnson Creek watershed through sound science and community engagement. We connect with the community in multiple different ways. So we have volunteer events such as our creek cleanup that happens every year. That's probably the most satisfying of our events because we pull a lot of trash out. We also have stewardship volunteer events where we're removing invasive plants and planting native plants and mulching and just helping that riparian habitat next to the stream. We also have a bunch of youth and adult learning opportunities. So I don't know if you're going to be able to see my mouse, but this top one is at the top right is actually a picture at the Leach Back 5. So we work with organizations such as the Blueprint Foundation and Wisdom of the Elders to get youth out in the watershed to learn a bit more about watershed science and develop some workforce skills and kind of teach them about what opportunities are available in watershed science and what kind of careers are out there in that field. So we're really grateful for that partnership with the Leach Botanical Gardens to be able to do that kind of work there, that restoration work. We also do community science, and our community science is probably one of my favorite parts of our outreach. We get volunteers out in the watershed to conduct different surveys to see what organisms are doing well in the watershed. So we do salmon surveys, bird surveys, dragonfly surveys, beaver surveys, and this year we just added amphibian egg mass surveys, which was quite popular. I've personally done the salmon survey and the bird survey. Both of them are really great. If you're interested in the bird survey at all, that one's about to kick off. So if you're a birder, we would love to have you join. And then we do a bunch of other educational outreach and workshops. So we'll do like webinars. We just had a pub talk on birds last night, I think. We'll do nature walks. We try to host family events like Science in the Park to get, kids and families engaged. We do stewardship learning opportunities with local high schools. We have bilingual events that we've hosted. I think we've done it in 3 or 4 different languages, had different events. And then we, of course, have our e-bulletin and our newsletter that goes out. E-bulletin is about once a month, newsletter is quarterly, that we update the community on what we're up to, and also have like science articles about different things that are happening in the watershed and different educational pieces. Also, a little bit more behind the scenes and not as much connected to the community are the restoration and riparian programs. So these involve our creek care program, which works with landowners on the creek to remove invasives and plant native plants on their property. We also do some monitoring of different other types of monitoring aside from the community science. This involves things like environmental DNA. We'll go out twice a year and take water samples to then see what DNA is in the water. And we actually just got our results back from last fall when we sampled at Leach Botanical Garden, and we had Pacific lamprey and coho DNA found there. So it's pretty exciting to know that coho are definitely passing through there. We also do macroinvertebrates monitoring, and that tells us a lot about, it's a good indication of the overall stream habitat health at that region. And since salmon and lamprey really rely a lot on these macroinvertebrates, the health of the macroinvertebrate community tells us a lot about the overall health of that stream right there. We do temperature surveys as well. That is a major concern for the habitat in the stream. So we try to monitor how the temperature of the stream is doing, especially before and after restoration projects, to see how that is affected. In the restoration program, which is the program that I lead, I have projects that I work on throughout the watershed, and these projects focus mainly on 3 different focus points. There's fish passage to make sure that those coho salmon can actually get somewhere to spawn. Habitat enhancement to make sure that when they actually get to where they want to go, is there actually going to be good salmon habitat there for them to spawn and give us more salmon. And then there's also our stormwater and water quality program. And we're trying to reduce the amount of stormwater runoff that's making its way directly into Johnson Creek. We can infiltrate that water through rain gardens and such like that. Then we not only can help reduce flooding, but also help reduce the amount of pollutants that are going directly into the stream. So those are the three main aspects. And that leads me into the project that I came here that I wanted to talk to you guys about. And that is the large wood enhancement or habitat enhancement project that we're looking to do right in your neighborhood. So we're currently looking into the feasibility of enhancing salmon habitat downstream of Leach Botanical Garden through installing large wood in the stream banks. We're looking at about 1,000 feet reach of stream that we want to do kind of a habitat assessment of, and then see where we might be able to best enhance habitat for salmon and Pacific lamprey and just all the other organisms that are passing through in this location. We are hoping to install about 5 structures in this reach, so not very much. And these structures would be small. There'd be about 3 to 5 logs each, possibly. And we're hoping to construct possibly in the late summer of 2024. We currently have engineers that are going to start working on that habitat assessment and hydraulic modeling and look to come up with some conceptual design alternatives. So we have an idea of what's going to work best in this location and what are some, kind of starting points for all of us to discuss and get some feedback on what everybody thinks about possible locations of large wood in the stream. Once we have those conceptual designs in hand, then we'll be having a stakeholder meeting, which all of you will be invited to, and the landowners that are within this reach to get feedback on what all of you think. This is definitely a project that we want to have everyone involved in at least as much as you want to be, and get a lot of feedback on what you think. So my next slide is basically, why do we want to put large wood in? Like what is the point of putting large wood in a stream? And before humans interacted with the stream and we kind of intervened by trying to clean it up by taking all the large wood out and straightening it out, large wood would naturally fall into the stream, and it would provide a lot of benefits to stream habitat. Some of these benefits are, diversifying the stream bed habitat by creating pools of cool water and gravel bars, which are what salmon need to spawn. It also adds to the complexity of the stream flow. So instead of having super straight shot channel or flow, it kind of weaves around a little bit, and it can also slow down that water and create eddies and pools that are good for resting habitat for salmonids and other fish in that area. Large wood can also provide hiding places from predators, but at the same time provide perch points for birds and other wildlife that want to hang out on the wood. Large wood can also be used to reconnect floodplains, but that is not going to be a focus of this project. Actually, one of the key components of this project is to make sure that the project does not raise water surface elevation. So that's one of the requirements that we put on the engineers, is that we don't have water surface elevations rise in any way. And this might entail just kind of digging out a little bit of a pool next to the large wood to make up some space, but we will not be flooding people's backyards. That is a pretty important piece to us. Last thing we want to do is make any kind of flooding situation worse. So we definitely, that is one of our key components of design. So what will this kind of look like? These are pictures from a previous large wood project that we did downstream in Milwaukee. And this is similar to what we're looking at here. We're looking at small pieces, small structures of just a few logs. Those might include root wads, which provide a lot of good habitat because it's really complex and gives a lot of different areas for perching and hiding spots. So you can see some of the root wads in these pictures, but mostly we're going to be looking at just having a few wood pieces of logs that are mostly buried in the bank. We will not be having any logs that span the entire channel. That's not what we're looking to do. We just want to enhance little side banks a little bit with those logs. So I kind of mentioned this a little bit, but the current project status is trying to make sure that I'm connecting with as many landowners as I can, because we really want to make sure that we get as much feedback as we can. And we, of course, will not be putting large wood into anyone's property without them being fully on board. So I am talking to landowners and trying to connect with them currently. And in the meantime, engineers will be conducting a survey and habitat enhancement in the next month or so. And that will be helping them to develop that hydraulic model to make sure we are not flooding anybody's backyard. And then from there, they're going to develop those conceptual designs so we can all talk about it, give them feedback, and make sure that everyone has a chance to really direct the, or like have a say in the direction of this design and how we go about it. So the stakeholder meeting is currently scheduled for May 9th. And once the time gets nailed down and we have those conceptual designs, we'll be sending out more information on that. And with that, I was wondering if there's any questions. I provided a couple large wood resources here and my contact information. You can reach out to me anytime. I love talking to people about this project, so please don't be afraid to talk to me about it. But yeah, I can put these in the chat as well, just to make it a little bit easier. Some of these links are a little complicated, but if anybody has any questions, please let me know.
Could I ask a quick question for my notes?
Yeah.
I see you had a slide that had May 9th. Is that the same stakeholder meeting you were talking about previous that you were going to let landowners?
Yes. And
okay, so I'll put
yep.
that date, May 9th. That's okay to put on the in the minutes. Okay.
And to be clear, so we will have a stakeholder meeting for conceptual design, and then we will move to 30% design. And after that, we will have another stakeholder meeting. At each phase of design, we're going to have stakeholder meetings because we really want this to be an open discussion that everyone, you know, can have many opportunities to provide feedback.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah.
I live upstream of where all this work is being done. 20 years ago or so, they redid Kelly Creek, where Kelly Creek flows into Johnson Creek. They had one of those old corrugated metal awful things where fish couldn't get through. After they redid it, they started finding salmon actually going up Kelly Creek. That area seems to, with, you know, I've always been concerned about all the houseless people and the damage they might be doing to the environment. Kelly Creek seems okay, but the other entrance to our neighborhood is Barbara Welch, and Barbara Welch and Foster. There's always like tons and tons of garbage on the creek, right on the creek. It seems like in that area, you see fires there all the time, and I just wonder, is there any plan to, like, if all those people are ever removed, to kind of rehabilitate that area?
So this is something that gets brought up to us at the Watershed Council all the time. And it is one of the things that we've put a lot of thought into, because this is an issue. And so we actually just recently put out a new page on our website that directly addresses this, and I will find that link and put it in the chat. basically we are trying to balance the humanitarian concerns of houselessness along with the concerns of the environment and some of these more sensitive environmental areas. So we've been trying to do more scientific studies on the impacts and urging the local government agencies to do so as well. And we provide hotlines and stuff if people feel that there's concerns, that they can reach out to the people that can actually address this, because as a watershed council, we can't really we don't have any power to do anything about this issue other than try to urge government agencies to take action in different ways. But we do look for opportunities to restore some of these areas that have been degraded over time, whether that be by humans or other factors. So if that opens up to be a good restoration spot, we're always looking to put more native plants and enhance more habitat. So we're always trying to keep that on our radar. But yeah, yeah. Oh, yes.
I'd like to second that also, because I live right off of Barbara Welsh over there on Foster, and that area has gotten kind of out of control. That there's many tarps that are on the ground and on the over the top, and I am very concerned about what's going into Johnson Creek from that area. And
I think that's very valid. I also am concerned about a lot of these impacts that happen. So it's been something that we've struggled with. And as I said, as a watershed council, since we can only really do so much, we've been trying to urge local cities and municipalities to take action in different ways that will help these houseless people and also help the environment. But it's a very complicated issue. So yeah, I did find the link, so I'll put that in now while I remember.
So I did have a question for you concerning, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Concerning water qualities, and if you guys have seen any changes with the lead acid batteries and such, because with the houseless people, of course, the majority of their stuff is all driven off of battery power. And because they can't recharge the batteries, there would be no sense in having rechargeables. And I talked with a lot of, a few people, and they mentioned that there is a lot of batteries going into the creek. Have you guys found any higher levels of that in the past?
I'm trying to see. I don't know when the last time we did a water quality survey was that included lead.
So it's just not the lead acid, of course, but it's the cadmiums and all those other things that go into some of these, high powered batteries that just get, just thrown into the creek. So it'd be interesting. Or if you have a place where we can go and see where we would get the information to see what the water quality of the creek is, that would be a nice thing also for us to be able to watch and maybe be able to see some of the changes that are taking place in different areas that we know that are encampment type areas, so.
Yeah, so I did find a page on our website that addresses water quality, and it looks like it includes some of the studies that have been done in the past. So I'll put that in the chat, and then I will look into this a little bit more to see if I have any further information on this, because I'm not entirely sure how up to date. It looks like this study was concluded in 2014. So right. I'm gonna check and see if there's any newer data. I know that USGS does a lot of water quality sampling, and they do some of that sampling in Johnson Creek. So I could also reach out to them to see if they have any additional information. City of Portland might also have some of this information. So I can poke around and see what I find out. And if I find anything, I will send it to Dale to pass on. But
That would
yeah,
be great.
that's-
That might be a helpful tool for us to be able to use to try to help reduce the encampment area, especially close to the creeks, knowing that unfortunately some of these things are a casualty of just day-to-day living in the situations that some people are in.
right. So, and I think if I remember right, I will check on this, but I'm pretty sure one of our board members actually recently did a study that looked at the impacts of houseless camping along the creek. So I will find that and pass that along too, because that might get at exactly kind of what you're looking to find out. So I will put that on my to-do list and I'll get that to you guys.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Any other questions that people have? Dale, if you're talking, you are muted.
Thank you. I am grateful that the city has made some efforts for tent camping in the floodplain, 110th and Foster. And even though there are RVs parked along on Foster, it's been mitigated. There are fewer of them, but it's an ongoing issue. And but I am grateful that there's been efforts to clean up, to mitigate at least tent camping in the nature space in the floodplain. And and if folks here can remember 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we had 140 or more houseless people in the tents, and so there's that part has been mitigated, and so there is a sense where we are fortunate that some work has happened. I feel I have mixed feelings about that, because there's a place where if they're not there, they're someplace else. Those folks that find it difficult to find a place to live. So my heart goes out to them, and we have compassion for that. But although it does affect our nature spaces, and that's and we have so much of that in Pleasant Valley neighborhood, and particularly we could even go the Springwater Trail runs along through Pleasant Valley neighborhood, and so we also have that as a gem, and that is slowly getting to be less habitated by houseless folks. Any other questions that somebody want to jump in?
Yeah, hi Dale, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I was curious, I came in late to this presentation, but with the restoration there, where's the funding coming from to implement the work?
So we have a couple different sources of funding. We're getting some from the Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board and some from the City of Portland Bureau of Environmental Services. And then those funding sources are currently, we have secured to cover design costs. And then we recently put in a proposal for another grant that is through NOAA, or the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And we're still waiting to find out if we have received that grant, but if we receive that, it would be covering construction costs for not only this project, but for a few of our other projects. So fingers crossed.
And thank you. One follow-up question.
Yep.
Again, my apologies, came in late to the conversation, but I heard about wood being placed into the banks and no channel spanning, log jams, things like that. usually when wood's being added to tributaries, it's for complexity, for roughness, to increase floodplain connectivity, for different life history stages of fish, for rearing, things like that. So again, the intent for the treatment of the wood in the banks is that bank armoring rather than putting riprap in there. Could you explain that, please?
Yeah, sure, of course. So we're looking to enhance the habitat. That's the main goal, is to enhance habitat there. A secondary benefit is going to be large wood in banks can armor banks and help with erosion and such like that. That is not the intent of the project, but it could be an added benefit. One thing that I did mention earlier is we want to make sure that this project is not flooding people's backyards. So large wood a lot of times is placed in streams to try to reconnect that floodplain and push the water onto the floodplain. We are not doing that with this project. One of the requirements that we have for the engineers in their design is that we're not raising the water level at these locations. So that might entail digging out some pools next to the large wood, just to make some extra storage there to alleviate any potential extra flooding. Because yeah, we know that Johnson Creek floods as it is. We don't want to add to that problem. So that is not one of the goals of the project.
Yeah, I pretty much captured that from what you said there, that, obviously when you're putting large wood in, it is to encourage lateral migration into the floodplain. You're not doing that there. And, realizing Johnson Creek is heavily incised there. To reconnect that floodplain, you need a really broad valley to do that there. But thank you for answering my question.
Yeah, of course. I love talking about this stuff. So really, you guys can reach out to me anytime and I'm happy to chat. But yeah.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for your presentation and all that information. That will stay with us, and we'll carry that with us and share that with our neighbors. And we are so thankful that you and Leach Botanical Garden are coordinating this and walking hand in hand and trying to do the right thing. So we're very excited for that collaboration. And Johnson Creek Watershed Council has a lengthy collaboration with Leach Botanical Garden, and particularly now with the back five, with that coordination and participation. That's just terrific. And Ben, thank you so much for joining with us, and we want to thank you also for helping coordinate with Pleasant Valley Neighborhood Association and allowing us to come on Leach and do a small festival of celebration with We Are Neighbors. And in fact, we are planning on doing that in April 28th, I believe. We've got an afternoon event that we're going to be celebrating, and we want to thank Leach Botanical Garden and you, Ben, for joining us, and we'll let you both leave if you'd like. We have a little bit of further business to do, and before we close up shop at 8:30, so to speak. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us. This was great.
Yeah, thanks. Good night.
Okay. Boy, my gosh, that was just terrific. Now on down through the agenda. It was brought to our attention not too long ago that Dennis Rose was doing some work with neighbors on 162nd Clatsop to Foster, and the safety issue on that street. And so, and I'm just going to let Mark Brown, who has visited with Dennis and Dennis's work with getting neighbors together to develop suggestions for PBOT to come in and help mitigate the safety issue on that street. I'll let Mark kind of pick up here, and because he knows actually more than I do. And so Mark, why don't you jump in and help us out here?
Okay, Dale. Beverly, who's on this call, actually is Dennis's wife. They live on 162nd. I live in a subdivision right above 162nd, but our subdivision does abut to 162nd. So we've offered to help and put some of the weight of the number of houses we have up here behind getting him to get attention from city and county. It's ongoing, it's changing. He's actually had a lot of success in the last week. The problem they're having is a large increase in traffic. This is basically a country road. You can't even pull a car off the side. You can't walk. It's like there's no shoulder at all in this area. And the signs, a lot of the signs have been removed or damaged, speed signs. I know that even from Clatsop to Barbara Welch, I can never figure out where to turn now because the sign that says there's a turn is gone. I don't know where it went. But there are a lot of people are speeding. The amount of traffic because of all the huge number of new construction on 172nd and in Happy Valley in general has increased traffic. And one of the problems is that 172nd and Foster is a stop sign. So you had this huge amount of increased traffic on 172nd, and they get to Foster and it's a stop sign. Foster at that point is 45 miles an hour. So drivers are, going by there fairly quickly. It backs up. So what people do is they come around to 162nd and use it instead, because 162nd has a light at Foster. Unfortunately, people aren't obeying speed limits. They're tailgating, they're speeding, they get some motorcycles racing. And so he's trying to get some attention. What he wants is signage. He would even like to have an electronic sign for a while, one of those speed signs. He would like to get more police patrols. And so he's been keeping me informed of all of his progress. And last week he made a lot of progress. He's actually was all excited because I think it was yesterday, the day before, there were police out there giving tickets. They were pulling people over. That was the actual, I believe that was Multnomah County Sheriff's that did that. Part of the problem with this area is that it's multiple jurisdictions. So once you get to Clatsop, that's where Clackamas County starts. Clatsop to Foster is Multnomah County. Part of it's Portland, part of it's not. So Multnomah County's been helping, but Multnomah County's in a position, the sheriff, they're saying, hey, we need Portland to help out too. So he's currently trying to get Portland police to do a little bit of enforcement. But there are new signs up. He actually got new signs up last week. So there are improvements. He's been contacting Commissioner Mapp's office, I know. And he's had some luck with them. PBOT is I guess, he's been partially successful, but he said the actual engineering group that would be required to put up the speed signs, he's having trouble getting responses from them. And because of the different jurisdictions, he sometimes even has trouble getting people to even admit responsibility for things. This is a very weird area that we live in. I always tell people I could stand on my deck and throw a rock and I could hit Clackamas County one way and hit, Gresham the other way. That's how close I'm in Portland, but I'm right in the southeast corner of it. And it is difficult getting any attention out here. But he wants people to be involved. I'm working with him as a representative of Pleasant Valley Neighborhood Association and also as a position with the HOA. I'm in a very large HOA in Lexington Hills that has 296 homes in it. There are additional houses up here on Clatsop Butte, but we're the large one that actually has our property actually crosses 162nd and goes all the way down to Kelly Creek right there. So we have a very strong interest in getting something done. He is making progress, but he's not giving up. He's going to continue to work. And I'm working with him on getting letters from our president and the president from the HOA. The trouble is that it keeps changing, because originally said there's no signs. Well, now there are signs, so now we have to kind of keep rewording. So Dale, that letter I gave you before, don't bother with it, because it's going to have to be redone. Because he wants to acknowledge when people have been helpful. You know, he doesn't want to say things aren't getting done when he has been getting success. So that's where we're at. I'll continue to work with him. If anybody wants to help out, wants to lend their voice, I have friends that live on 162nd that have backed what he said, how bad it is. People, there's friends of mine live right on 162nd. Their house is just 100 feet from the road, and it's and they have a small horse farm, and it's the traffic is getting ridiculous. And it's not, you know, it's not safe for us either, because our main interest is on 162nd. So when we're going in and out, that can be really dangerous when people are speeding on the road out there. So, but like I said, he is making progress. Last week was a good week for him, but he's not giving up. He's going to continue to push, and I'll continue to represent the board with him. I don't know if anybody, this is just a small section of 162nd, because 162nd north of Foster runs into Powell Butte. You know, that's where the Powell Butte Nature Trail and all that. So 162nd stops until you get to Powell. And then once you get to Powell, you're outside of our neighborhood. So.
Right. I might make a comment here. Pleasant Valley Neighborhood jurisdiction extends clear out to 190th. And Steve has history with this, and the rest of us may not. And it's unincorporated. Part of it is Gresham, and then part of it is Clackamas County. So there's like 5, as you were saying, Mark, 5 different jurisdictions. And this road happens to incorporate this wonky ownership of property and responsibility. And nobody wants to take any responsibility. They pass the buck to the other person. And so it's really great. And thank you so much, Dennis, for the work that you're doing. And we would like to put the full weight of Pleasant Valley Neighborhood behind this effort. And in so doing, we're putting together a letter of support for from Pleasant Valley Neighborhood for Dennis and that cohort of folks that live on 162nd, because in the end, it is those folks that are west of 162nd that are in the Portland jurisdiction, I believe.
Yeah.
And if we can mobilize those folks because they're connected to the Portland, of which we are more officially, that might be an incentive, and that might even take some legwork and some volunteers from all of us to put out flyers up in those little small development sections off of 162nd going west that have a Portland address. Anyway, so that's where I'm coming from as the chair of Pleasant Valley Neighborhood, and anything we can do to support that. If there's other folks that know of a different solution, please let us know and email me, phone me. We'll try to get you at least in touch with Dennis and Mark. Any other comments, Steve?
So I'm actually familiar with that area a little bit, because when I come home from work, if I happen to go out that way, if I come down 172nd, of course, that's pretty much dangerous trying to get on the Foster from there. So I always turn down, whether Crystal Springs or one of those, off of 172nd, and I come back and around. And what I've noticed, and I've been doing it for a long time, it's actually a real nice cut through. I know a lot of other people do. One of those streets has speed bumps on it, and it just kind of slows everything down a little bit. People can just take their time and come through and still accomplish what they need. But the speeding has really been, mitigated, I guess is what you'd call it. I wonder if maybe if we were to get some speed bumps in particular areas through that stretch, if it might get the point across. Maybe that might be something. I don't know what you guys are expecting to do, but it is a lot safer route going that way than it is trying to get out at 172nd. We as a neighborhood association have worked on that one for a long time, trying to get something taken care of down there. And we have just haven't gotten anywhere.
Steve, I will say that Dennis did find out that there is a plan to put a light at 172nd.
Oh, that's wonderful. That should help out quite a bit.
Apparently what's been holding that up is that Gresham wants to do a bunch of development, because Gresham kind of runs up almost to that point.
We get that.
And Gresham wants to punch 172nd past Foster.
Yeah.
And I think now that's not going to happen, so they can finally put the light in. But I understand it'll take a year or two to get that light in.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's bad. I go that way. If I'm heading to Gresham from my house, I go out Foster. So I go by 172nd all the time. And it's like,
Absolutely.
I feel sorry for those people sitting there, because, it's bad, and it's 45 miles an hour on Foster there. So people are, doing 50 or better usually.
Yeah.
But when I moved out here, 162nd didn't have any traffic.
No.
I mean, there
Go
was no
look at Jenny Lane. Look
Yeah.
at Jenny Road. Jenny
Oh, yeah.
Road's pretty bad. You can't even get out there.
Yeah.
I meant to ask you, is Jenny in Portland?
Jenny's parts of it is. We're in the same little weird jurisdictional thing. Our address, yes.
Because 162nd, I know here is where Portland ends. But then if you're on Foster, it says entering Portland right after you pass the Grange coming west.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, wow, that's much further out.
We're unincorporated Multnomah County, yet our address is City of Portland, but we're not in the City of Portland.
How far up, Jenny, whereabouts on Jenny are you? How far up from Foster?
We're at Jenny Lane. We're right at the church.
Okay. So you're about halfway between Foster and
Yeah.
I'll make a short comment, then we can move on to some other things. But you might, Mark, you might have Dennis check out Flavel. 112th to Barbara Welch. Oh, no, not Barbara Welch. It's the next 134th. It has speed bumps, and it has no shoulders. It's very similar to that road that we're talking about, 162nd.
I believe that Dennis said that he has checked in, and they won't put speed bumps on 162nd. It's not considered the type of street they would put speed bumps on, apparently.
Okay, all right. Okay. Any other questions about the, for Mark? Thank you so much, Mark, for giving us a great outline of that project. And Cheryl, please, is it, no, it's Evelyn. My brain is leaving me. Beverly, please,
Beverly.
yeah, please let Dennis know that we're in full support of his project. And
I will. Thank you so much.
yeah. Let's go on to, I don't think Barry is able to, I think he's on an iPad or something, and I haven't heard him talk. He's out of town. Let's talk a little bit about, before upcoming events. I do want to put you up to date on two issues. One is 122nd. PBOT is putting upgrading from Foster to Powell Butte to Powell, and I believe that may start next year. The final budget has been submitted, and I don't know what the process is in getting it funded, but that will take care of the intersection at Southeast Foster and 122nd, which all of you know is ridiculous. And the potholes there now are getting worse. I noticed that they came through yesterday, I think, and put some gravel in a couple of them, but it didn't seem to make a dent. So that is in the process. It's been funded. I mean, the final budget has been submitted, I believe, and now they're waiting for funding.
I think, Dale, that they're actually going to do 122nd all the way to like Halsey.
Yes. Yeah.
The whole thing, all of
Yeah.
122nd.
Right. Yeah.
And I'll tell you one thing: those speed cameras, they work.
Yes.
Because when you're driving 122nd, when you get close to where that speed camera is, everybody slows down. Everybody knows that speed camera is there, and everybody slows down to about 30.
And I came by there today and saw that light go off on somebody. So
Yeah.
It is working. Let's go to, the other thing is 97th to 110th. That was the part of Southeast Foster. That's the part that wasn't completed in paving. That project is to happen in 23. And so we're in that. It may not happen until late 23 because COVID slowed a lot of things down. But it's, I think it has been funded, and they're just waiting for it to get in the queue to get done. And so all that rough road prior, to that 7-Eleven, is that what that is? Right there. That's going to all change. So that's good news. And upcoming events, we are doing Dumpster Day, April 29. It's coming up, and I'm going to send out a blast in the next couple of days to get people to sign up to help with that event. And that's going to happen on Golden Dynasty Park Lot, and it'll be 12 to noon. And would love to have us all be participants. And there are plenty of what I want to say. There are a lot of positions for men and women on that event, and we've got 20 signs that we're going to put out in our neighborhood, and so we need people to help just put out the signs, yard signs. and those are going to go out a week before. And then they need to be collected that on the afternoon of the 29th after the event. So we get our signs back. And then another date is We Are Neighbors celebration at Leach Botanical Garden that I mentioned when Ben was presenting. And that's going to be, I believe, 2 to 4. So put that on your schedule, and that is in conjunction with our initiative of developing small neighbor groupings of 5 neighbors or less, and so that you're connected with your neighbors, and this is where Steve and Judy, I think it'd be great at that celebration if we could do a presentation of some sorts. So if you could think about that, and it doesn't have to be big, but make it so that it's helpful, and we can offer that kind of thing to their local neighborhood. Small groups. So that is on the docket. Now, we're always looking for new board members that are wanting to join up and to be participants. It's not a whole lot of work or time. And if you have any suggestions for comments, what do you want to see happen? Anything that in your neighborhood you'd like to see happen, now's the time to do it. We have about 5 minutes. Steve.
Well, I have a win that I can announce. I got contacted by some neighbors in the neighborhood about an illegal dump site. So I called the Metro RID number, and they gave me a contact number to call someone to come and pick them up. I had to answer a few questions, tell them where it was at. They're really good. And they asked me if we needed any plastic bags or anything like that. So we could, if we wanted to, we could clean up some of the stuff ourselves, and they would come pick it up, or they would just come pick it up. Well, in this situation, we elected just to have them come pick it up. And in 2 to 3 days, they came by, cleaned it up, it was gone, and it was just that easy. It was real great opportunity to work with the people here at this number. And I can give you the number, Dale, and you can put it on the thing. I think we already have it somewhere, but if just in case, 503-234-3000. And I was surprised at how quick it happened and how easy it was. It does have to be on public property. They don't come onto private property, but worked really well, and it does work.
What's the name of the
It was called Metro RID. Metro RID contact number. So I don't know if they're subsidized by the city. I don't know how it worked, but
okay.
Yeah, we've
Can you
actually,
give us that number one more time? The phone number one more time, Steve?
503-234-3000.
Metro is our regional government,
Yeah.
and they have the RID program.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Linda.
yeah, we've actually used them. We've used them for dumps on Barbara Welch too. Like there was a boat one time, somebody dumped a rowboat on Barbara Welch and they cleaned it up fairly quickly.
Thank you, Linda, for that. Anything else?
Well, I think it's kind of nice just to have some wins and just talk about some, if we do things like this in our neighborhood, that work well, maybe we could tell everybody about it a little bit and just have some good things too, you know, so that's why I wanted to
bet.
let everybody know.
You bet. Thank you, Steve, and for doing that work. Any more news? Thank you so. I'll accept a motion to adjourn if somebody wants to do that, or I will.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay, it
And
is.
you're exactly on time. It's exactly 8:30. Good timing there.
Well, it wasn't planned.
You got lucky.
Yeah, and thank you so much for showing up, folks. And please reply to send a reply or back to Pleasant Valley Neighborhood that you want to be part of the neighborhood. I don't have any way to get your information for. I need your address, please, phone number, and name, and we can send you out the blasts. Pleasant Valley membership. Thank you all for showing up.
Thank you.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everybody.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Hey.
Night.
See, I just can't. Yeah. Okay.
I'll get to the minutes in a couple of days, Joe.
Yeah, no rush.
I'm retired. I'm slow.
Listen, I have I just completed my last radiation yesterday,
Oh, good.
and so there's give me a couple more weeks and I'll start getting more energy.
Yeah, I know how I know that really saps it out of you.
Yeah. Okay, so we got this recording, and how do you stop it? I don't. Oh, end recording. Pause. Stop recording. Okay.